你说你好。
你好。
In this video, I'm going to be talking a little bit about dieting strategies. And I'm not talking about different foods that you can consume, such as the keto diet and the high carb, low carb diet. I'm referring to the way that you can go about consuming these foods. In my experience of coaching people, it's become obvious to me that people are generally not too familiar with the different strategies that actually exist. Most people would typically assume that you get like a 7-day meal plan and you follow those meals no matter what. And I mean, that's not incorrect, but that's only one strategy that exists. There are many other ways to go about following a diet. And that's what I'm going to be focusing on in this video. And of course, I'll also be showing a little bit more of the balanced lifestyle here in China. Right now, I'm enjoying riding on this e-scooter that we have. It's the first time I'm using this one to go to gym. Usually I'm on my e-bike. So this is a standing scooter. I'm not sitting down like I usually am. And the range is 50 kilometers supposedly, but I think that's on eco mode where you're not going super fast. Well, you can't go super fast anyway, but you can go decently fast. The top speed on this thing is 35 kilometers per hour. Let me just stop by this traffic light. And trust me, if you fall at 35 kilometers per hour, it doesn't sound fast, but you're gonna get hurt. It feels really fast standing on this thing at 35 kilometers per hour. Anyway, it's a lot of fun and I think I'll make it to gym and back. There and back is about 7 kilometers there, 7 kilometers back, if I remember correctly. I think it should be more than fine. I'm gonna go and do a bit of a leg and shoulder session and then head back home. So let's see if we can get up to 35 kilometers per hour without my hat falling off. Okay, so this is 35 now. And it feels pretty fast, but comfortable. Really nice e-scooter this. A lot of fun. Alright, let's get straight into some typical dieting strategies that do exist. One of the most common ones is a training day and a resting day diet plan from morning to evening, breakfast to dinner. And it may look a little bit different because on a training day, you typically require more energy, which means you need more food than on a resting day where you're not as active. So for this diet, you also need to know your macros, meaning your protein, fats, and carbohydrates, and your total calories. And this depends on your goal. Are you trying to gain weight or are you trying to lose weight? So it's not very difficult to work that out. You can do it just on the computer, searching for TD calculator, total daily energy expenditure, or if you have a coach, they'll just work it out for you. But that's more on that on another video. I don't want to go into too much detail and make this video too long. So yeah, depending on what your goal is and your macros is, you'll follow that for the day. So if, for example, you're trying to lose weight, on a training day, you'll still have typically a little bit more calories than on a resting day. Resting day, you'll have a few less because you are not training, you're not as active, so you can afford less calories. But overall, together, and by the end of the week, you'll be in a calorie deficit, which means you will lose weight. And the same principle applies if you're trying to gain weight. As long as overall, over the week, you're in a calorie surplus, you'll be gaining weight and gaining some good muscle. But your training day looks a little bit different to your resting day, just because the energy required and the calories needed can differ based on your activity. If you want to be really locked in and avoid going off a little bit here and there and trying to be as specific as possible to reach your goal as best as possible, it's best to have one training day option, like meaning one meal plan from breakfast to dinner, and same for your resting day. But a lot of people prefer a little bit more variety, especially if you're quite new to dieting. So in that case, you can have 2 to 3 options, more of course, of a training day and a resting day. But the more variety you have, the more difficult it becomes to follow your plan because you have more ingredients. So if you have a whole bunch of different meals, you need a whole bunch of different ingredients to have ready at home. Otherwise, it becomes a bit of a mission. If you decided to follow a specific day that looks a bit different than yesterday, you might not have that in your fridge. You have to drive to the store first and then get it. So of course, it just takes a bit more planning. You can get it right. You can make sure that you buy enough foods and all the variety that you need for all your meals in the different days. But it's a little bit easier to go off of track if you go too much variety. If I look at my breakfast from training day 1 and I look at my lunch from training day 3, the macros from my lunch in training day 3 might look different than my lunch from training day 1 option, because the breakfast might be different. So typically training day 1 will look the same and the macros will line up according to your goal. The same for day 2, the same for day 3, which means you can't take here and there from the different days. It's very hard to align them in a specific way to just be able to choose different plans, different meals from here and there. So that's actually a different dieting strategy that does exist, but there's a specific way to go about it, and I'll talk more about that later. The best way to go about it is to decide the day before which day you will follow the next day. If you decide that, all right, tomorrow I'm going to follow training day 1 because that's the food that you have available or that's what you feel like, make sure you have everything in the fridge or prepare it ahead of time and you follow that for the day. All right, so training day, resting day, with or without variety, generally recommended to just keep it to 1 for each to be the most locked in and the easiest way to make sure you're going to make the progress that you need. So the pros for a training day, rest day diet that includes just 1 full meal plan for training day and 1 full meal plan for resting day is that you're able to follow a specific plan and there's not too much variety. It's easier to follow similar meals daily, and that also means that it will take a shorter amount of time for your eye to start recognizing portion sizes. So typically to match your macros, protein, fats and carbs and your calories, you'd need to weigh your food, right? So after a couple of weeks, usually 3 to 4 weeks, you'd be able to remember more or less how big your portion sizes are. So then you can just start adding it to your plate without actually weighing it. By eating similar foods at similar times, it also helps your metabolism to get used to a certain structure. There's no curveballs in there that might make you bloated or feel a little bit uncomfortable or gain more water weight than usual. Talking about the cons, of course, not having a big variety, you have to follow similar foods very regularly. Maybe just a little bit different over the training day and the resting day. But you'd be surprised. For me and also many clients that I've worked with that follow the same kind of plan, you start seeing the food as fuel. So instead of always craving something nice, you get used to just getting something that you know is going to fuel your body in the right way. And it also helps you to look forward to a different kind of meal sometimes. So when you do a TD or a RD, training day or a rest day, doesn't mean you can never ever get off a plan. You still need to allow yourself to treat yourself a little bit over the weekend if you go to a restaurant, or maybe you want to cook something specific at home. You look forward to those and those taste extra good and you appreciate it a bit more. But during the week, it's, you get into a good routine of just fueling your body. You can still experiment with your usual foods that you're having by trying different spices and stuff. Spices and hot sauces don't make a massive difference in calories. So you can still keep it fun, but for a lot of people, this is still a con where you just eat similar foods for a long period of time. And like I said, personally, not a big con for me, but I know for some people that is a bit of an issue. All right, and then another dieting strategy is to have 1 specific meal plan, breakfast to dinner, for every single day of the week. So if you choose to do this, you need to know which days you will be training. So this works well for a lot of people, especially people that prefer variety. So if you know that you're going to be training on a Monday, Wednesday, and a Friday, then you know that you could accommodate for those days to maybe have a little bit more calories. It doesn't mean that you have to. It's also okay to average out your calories so that every day you eat a certain amount to average out your calories for the week, because you don't want to go over or under depending on what your goal is. A lot of people do like to have a specific plan for every single day of the week. Doesn't mean that every day has to be completely different. Once again, it can include some similar proteins and carbs and stuff, but maybe a dinner might look different almost every day of the week. Maybe one night you like to have rice, another night pasta, another night buckwheat, etc. There's lots of different carbs out there, and also, of course, vegetables and stuff like that. So once again, for a diet like that, you just need a bigger variety at home. You plan a bit better, and you need to make sure that you have your whole grocery list with you every time you go grocery shopping, to make sure you have everything on hand. Either way, in a training day, rest day, or a 7-day meal plan, it can be cycled. So typically, Anish, your coach, is very lazy, or you are very lazy, it'll stay the same. But every couple of weeks, there's no problem changing it up a bit and keeping it fun. So of course, the nice thing with having variety in your training and your resting day meals is that you don't get bored of just having the same kind of meal. So that's definitely a pro. And also the fact that, well, arguably you might be able to do this sustainably for a little bit longer, being able to enjoy different foods on different days. So maybe that's a bit more enjoyable to certain people. So as you'll notice, it really depends on person to person. So that's why when you have a coach, you guys figure this out together, and a coach can recommend to you all these type of things, and with experience by dealing with other people, suggest to you based on your preferences, etc., what might work the best for you. After a couple of weeks, if it doesn't work well, you change. So the problem obviously with having a big variety, as I mentioned earlier, is the fact that it's a little bit harder to stick to very specifically and nail it to the point, just because you'll find that some days you'll be following a plan, you're like, oh damn, I ran out of this ingredient, and you need to run to the store first, and you're gonna have to improvise with something else which affects your calories.
I need to get past this truck. I don't know if it's a good idea or a bad idea. Let's go for it. Not too bad.
Please also film this local street food.
We need to make a full video in that street food.
And we will try everything. And then we go straight to the hospital.
This is our friend. Ni hao.
They live in that dorm from there. And they like also.
Other than the training days, rest days, 7-day meal plan kind of programs, which is all set, you follow that no matter what. There's other strategies out there as well. So one that gives you a little bit more freedom, also still macros and calories based, but not as exact. So this strategy allows you to build your own meal plan for a day or for the week if you want to do that. So look, basically you get a block of your meals, which would include your breakfast, snack, lunch, snack, dinner, for example. And then you get a list that's made for you of different breakfast options. That's if you have a coach. Otherwise, you might be able to buy similar kind of strategies online. So you have a list of breakfast, lunch, and dinner options, as well as snack options if you like to have snacks throughout the day. And all of these will be within a specific calorie and macros range to meet your needs. So once again, it won't be specific, but you're able to take those meals and add it to your blocks, and you're able to build your own kind of meal plan for the day or for a couple of days or for the week, etc. So that gives you freedom of choosing from a bigger variety if you're someone that really does like to change things up, if you don't like to follow similar meals for extended periods of time. That allows a little bit more freedom. Once again, you'll still have to weigh your foods to make sure they fall within the margins as said on the meals that you chose from. You can't just put those meals together however you want, because you might go way over or way under your macros goal. So you choose from the meal options on the list, which are within your calorie ranges. The ranges are typically within 100 calories. So they'll be designed in a way that when you put them together for a day meal plan, then they'll fall close enough within your goal range. Not too ideal for anyone who needs to be locked in very hard to get really, really good results, but still good enough for someone who's got a long way to go and that's not in a major rush to get there. For a lot of people, this kind of strategy is much more sustainable rather than feeling like you have to stick to this specific few meals or different options for extended periods at a time. Gotta love a good drop set on the leg extension. Starting light, 20 reps, heavier with no rest. Let's do 20, 12, last set, heavy, 6 to 8. Get the most of it out of the quads before we move on to hamstrings and calves. Legs are slowly but surely getting back into it. Not happy with the size I'm getting back yet, but happy with the strength I'm gaining back. The size will follow soon, hopefully. Instead of being flat like this, a little bit up to work all the way high into the quads. 1, 2, 20. Okay, let's go heavier. Damn, that's burning. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm cramping. Come on. 8, 9, 10. Oh. Now for 8. Come on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Come on. Oh, that's burning. 6, 7. That's crazy. Oh, yeah. Make sure you get your drop set in on the last set of leg extensions. Okay, next strategy. So this strategy over here doesn't require specific macros. It doesn't require you to go and weigh your meals and focus on exact portions, etc. So this one focuses on consuming less calories. So typically that'll be less fats, less carbs, or heavy carbs, so that you can still consume a decent amount of foods, but still be allowed to be able to enjoy 1 or 2 takeout meals per week, and also 1 snack per day, for example. Not like a high calorie snack, but some decent snack usually within like 200 calories. So you'll also be given different lists of foods, and you'll be able to choose from those. So typically it'll be a list of proteins, a list of vegetables, and a list of fruits, which also includes the likes of like berries. So depending on which person it is, the guide to go towards it might be a little bit different. But for example, a breakfast might look something like, you have your list of proteins and it'll say choose 1 and eat as much as you want from that 1. Of course, you should still stay within moderation. Obviously, if you're gonna overeat, you know that you're gonna get yourself into a calorie surplus. Then it'll say, for example, fruits, choose 2 and eat as much as you want from that, and vegetables, choose 1, eat as much as you want from that, or vice versa. No one's gonna eat like 10 bananas, you know? So yeah, that'll look the same for lunch. Lunch might say, choose 1 protein from this list and choose 1 protein from your breakfast list. Then have this much fruit, or choose 2 fruits and have as much as you want, choose 1 vegetable. So you get the point. You choose from different lists and you can eat kind of as much as you want from that. And because it's focusing on vegetables and fruits, the carbs are not heavy. You're not gonna consume lots of fat, lots of carbs, which is gonna build up a lot of calories. So you see what I mean? That's a little bit more flexible. It'll keep your calories quite low because the proteins that'll be listed to you will be quite lean, you know, in the forms of whey protein, of course, like a shake, even cottage cheese, but there'll also be like lean steak, chicken breast, chicken tenderloin. You can think of a lot of fish, etc., different meats. And the meats might also, the options for meats won't be exactly the same for each meal of the day. Dinner options might include just a few more lean options. So yeah, that's another meal strategy that you can follow as well. And usually they will also include a snack option daily, where you can choose like a protein bar or anything like that, any snack option that falls within like a 200 calorie range. And this type of meal plan usually also allows for at least 1 complete any meal you want, whether it's McDonald's or a pizza, and you'll still be within a decent macro range for the week, which will allow you to lose weight or maintain weight. And the longer you do this, the more you also, first of all, start realizing how it's affecting your body. So if you realize that you've been losing weight, you know that you can kind of keep eating the same amounts to keep losing weight, or at least not to gain weight. And if you don't feel like you've had too much progress after 2 or 3 or 4 weeks, then you just try to cut back a little bit even more. So yeah, it's generally quite a good strategy for people to use, especially for people who just absolutely cannot deal with or don't have the patience to be weighing their food and meal prepping. So you just have your list of ingredients from the different lists available, make sure that you have them in the house, and then you can just have a quick look at the list, say, okay, cool, I'm gonna grab this protein for today, I'm gonna grab these fruits, whatever. So yeah, quite a nice meal plan to stick to as well, especially I would say for beginners. I don't know who needs to hear this, but just a reminder to go real slow on the eccentric while doing most exercises, but especially this lying hamstring curl, because first of all, you're stronger in this eccentric movement, the movement on the way down. You're stronger in that position than on the way up. It's harder to go up slowly than down slowly. So you should try to make most out of this rep, going slowly down, keep the weight, muscle under tension, and make that muscle work. Second of all, if you're just going like this, you're not making most out of your reps, you're just wasting time. Look how much more this works and burns rather than just dropping it and just focusing on the rep up. You're just wasting your time. Okay. How am I gonna do 5 squats? 1, 5. Oh. Usually, I start the superset with an RDL with the elevated foot. I've been doing it since I was like 16. It's famously known as the leg killer, we call it, among myself and my friends and my clients. This was second set. Don't know about doing another set. You see, that's the thing, but not having a specific program. Because I'm just coming and still doing more or less what I feel like, still trying to push hard like now. But if I had a program that said 3 sets, I would do that third set no matter what. It's the program. It's what you need to do to get where you want to be. But when you don't have a program, if you're a little bit too tired, you can make that decision a little bit easier to not do another set, because there's no expectation for that. So I always say, you know, it's so important to follow a specific plan. You don't even need a coach. You can write it down yourself if you're quite experienced, do some research, but have a plan and try to improve on your plan, whether you're improving on the weights that you're doing, progressively overloading, which is obviously top priority, or whether you're doing something for time or rounds. Whatever you do, try to improve. If you improve on paper, your physique will follow with it. Now I know what you're thinking. Where are my calves? Ah man, I'm definitely not blessed with big calves. My mom has such big calves. I wish I got that from her side, but it seems like I didn't. But hey, I'm so grateful to be blessed in other areas. I can definitely pack on muscle in my upper frame and my quads quite easily. So, you know, everyone will have some weak point somewhere. So you just need to get over it. Just keep trying to train it. You can always try to improve it. There's a success story. There's a story about Arnold Schwarzenegger, who apparently didn't have the best calves. I've never seen the evidence of this, but apparently he, through endless amounts of donkey races with people on his back, managed to get big calves. I always try to get decent shape in my calves, but it's an area that struggles to grow. It is what it is. I'll take the bit of criticism that I get for it by my friends and whoever out there, but I'm not gonna let it ruin my vibe. It did when I was younger, but you get over it. So anyone out there with some weak points, get over it. Keep training it, train it extra hard, but be grateful that you're able to train and get to the gym and enjoy working out, because there's people that actually can't even make it to the gym. So yeah, guys, don't let these weaknesses that you have break you. This is my bike, and how am I supposed to get on this thing? So, you know, it's quite normal in China, to be honest. This has happened to me 100 times. People seem to be okay with, you know, parking someone in, and if you need to move your bike, if you need to get your bike out, you just move whoever's bike is in the way, take it out, take your bike out, and then put your bike or put their bike back. Sometimes they'll just leave the other person's bike. So I try to remind myself not to get angry at these situations, because it's just, maybe it's just part of the culture, their lifestyle, like it's normal. But of course, like, you want to get annoyed, especially if you're in a rush and you need to be somewhere and you need to get on your bike and go. But yeah, not ideal. Now I need to mission first. There's no ways I can get out of here, you know, there's no ways I can squeeze in here and get out without moving that bike. Anyway, it is what it is. And don't let small things ruin your day, guys. Keep practicing that. Just get over it.
The final dieting strategy that I'll talk about on today's video is tracking your macros and your calories while using an app. And it's probably one of the most convenient and most common options in today's day and age, with the ease of your phone in your pocket, having it with you all the time. So you can easily have access to something like MyFitnessPal, or in my case, I'm just using the app that's available on the fitness platform that I'm using for myself and my clients. So what makes this different than a specific set of meal plans, such as on a training day or a 7-day meal plan, is that it's not as specific, such as following a plan where you just need to look at what you need to eat, prepare the food, and eat it in those quantities, because that is guaranteed to keep you in your calorie
or your macros goal. Whereas with tracking the macros by yourself, you have the freedom to choose whichever foods you want to choose. And often, if you have a coach, they'll give you like a guide of healthy meals and foods, nutritious foods to choose from. But whatever you choose, you log it as you go into your phone. So you typically need a food scale as well. You quickly weigh it. Then on the app, you go to add your food under the specific meal you're having for the day. And then there'll be a whole bunch of options, usually 1 to 2 million different verified foods that you can choose from. And then you type it in, search for it, and then add the quantity that you want to add. So usually there are different options to choose from in terms of how you want to measure the amount that you have. Typically there will be grams, so you can weigh the food in grams and add it in. And for other things such as liquids like milk or coffee or whatever, you'll have the option just to select like 1 cup or 2 cups with milk, without milk, with sugar, without sugar. And if you're having boiled eggs, for example, you don't need to weigh it. You can choose the option to say a medium-sized egg. So you don't have to be extremely specific every time. But obviously, if you do decide to weigh it to the gram every time, each time, that'll be even more accurate and probably will be a more accurate representation to your progress over a certain period of time. So these apps do try to make it quite convenient for you to just easily be able to go and find your food and log it. And anything that you've put in, it'll also be under your recent, so you don't have to do it every single time. So if you decide to have the same quantity again of a similar food that you've had, you'll find it under a recent tab and just add it like that. And usually as the day progresses, there will be like a few rings, one with your total calories, one with your total protein, one with total carbohydrates, and one with fat. And they will keep filling up as the day progresses, and that way you try to stay within range. You can still do this according to your training day and resting day. So you just set it up in a way that on your training day, you'll have a specific amount of macros, calories to follow, and on a resting day that might look a little bit different. Many coaches recommend this type of strategy because it's easier to prescribe this to a client rather than asking them and understanding what type of foods they typically eat, what they enjoy, what they don't enjoy, and making a set meal plan for them that will change almost every week to every second week. So it's easier just to prescribe, just to calculate the macros and the calorie needs, and then leaving it up to them to make sure they stay within margins every single day, and maybe providing just a general kind of healthy, nutritious meal guide. So I do understand why that's typically prescribed, and it does work if a client can stick within those margins and can continuously log their food by themselves. But the problem is, it's not that simple. There's a few problems with trying to follow this strategy. It's not as convenient as it sounds like. Some of the problems that I experience myself is that it's very inconvenient weighing your food on a regular basis. So as the day progresses, you need to keep logging your foods to see how you're doing. Because if you don't do that, say you keep eating and maybe you jot it down quickly on a piece of paper just so you remember the grams, because you have to remember every single food that you ate and the quantity. So if you only had time to write it down and by 5 o'clock in the evening you decide to log, and then you realize that, oh, either you're already over, so that's already a mistake for the day, or you're way under and now you have to eat like 700 calories in the evening. For it to work at its best, you have to, at every single meal, log it. So you need the time to be able to quickly pull out your phone and search for the things, or go to your recents and whatever to log it in and see how you're progressing. The good thing is, with time, this will get a little bit easier because, as I've mentioned, you'll have it on your recent foods, and you'll also start to realize what you're typically eating most of the time. And if you keep it in those same quantities, you'll just be able to go and select them again. You don't even have to go put in the measurement. You just select them again and it'll be there. And only if you eat something off of your regular meals, then you'll have to go and weigh something new. So it takes a bit of time to get to that stage. But either way, that means that you need to eat similar foods in similar quantities. And that's why, especially to people who are new to dieting, I would just recommend, and I do just recommend, following a set meal plan that's already put out on paper, and you just keep following that. Because if you're logging and tracking it yourself, it makes complications. You're trying to stay within range, and by the end of the day, you're further off of the exact goal than you would have liked. So yes, it is convenient for anyone who does have the time to log food consistently, for anyone who doesn't mind weighing food regularly, and anyone really wanting to enjoy the freedom of having anything at any time. And if you do feel like cheesecake during lunch, you can add in your cheesecake. That's another problem. If you're at a restaurant, you might not know exactly how much that weighs unless you ask them or brought your own food scale. But sometimes you'll just have to guess what the quantity of food is. That will generally happen when you go and eat at a restaurant. I know in some first world countries, restaurants will provide the macros. You just scan a barcode and you can have that on your macros tracker. So that's very convenient, but here in China, I've never seen that, and in many places that still doesn't exist. So it's a bit of an eyeball guessing game if you do go eating at restaurants, and you're not going to be that guy that takes food off of his plate and puts it on a scale to weigh and puts it back and eats it. So that's one of the other inconvenient things. This dieting strategy is usually my last resort to go to after my client already has some good experience in following dieting strategies based on the other strategies that I've spoken about. And even after following those strategies, I still find that some clients would still struggle to independently follow and track their own calories and macros goals using a macros tracker. It only lasts for like 1 or 2 weeks, and then slowly but surely they get off of it and start losing track of the quantities they consume, and before you know it, we're back like 5 steps. So yeah, I generally like to start with a plan. They just follow the meals on there, which is based on what they're already consuming, and some additional foods that I would recommend. And we align those with their macros and calorie goals. Typically, that would start with a few different options. And as time progresses, we narrow it down to just 2 options to be specific as possible and to learn how to just rely on food as a fuel for your body, especially to meet our specific physical and health goals. So after that, after we've been able to follow even a more narrowed plan for a while, then we'll switch over to tracking macros and calories on your phone using a tracker by yourself. So yeah, that is the macros tracking strategy. I really hope that you have a better understanding of the different ways to go about it. At the end of the day, you want to get to a point where you just don't have to be logging any macros or calories, you know? You don't have to be following a meal plan, because that's just not an enjoyable lifestyle. It's not a sustainable lifestyle. It's the whole point of gaining balance is to be able to just be yourself and stay in shape while living normally and focus on other probably more important things. It's in my opinion not an enjoyable or sustainable lifestyle, being so obsessed with food all the time. So you want to get to a point where you're absolutely just able to go based on feel. And the best way to go about it is to get to that point first. So follow a diet plan and strategy to get to a physique that you're proud of and that you enjoy, and a physique where you're able to maintain that physique without counting or logging macros and calories. And you can easily just maintain that physique. So you keep training and you keep eating a certain amount of foods, and you'll see that, hey, awesome, I'm able to stay in this shape and this weight, more or less, let's say plus minus 1 or 2 kilograms for a long time. And then if you then want to, you know, maybe be a bit more lean and have a better six-pack or whatever, then you can simply eat the same foods but just a little bit less, and perhaps increase your cardio a little bit. And the opposite kind of for if you want to put on some more muscle and weight and strength, you just eat more and focus and change your training strategy a little bit. But the food should be very easy to accommodate for. It's not supposed to be something extremely complicated, which demands an extreme diet and a lot of your time and focus. You want to gain a balance where it's seamless and you're able to achieve your goals without being obsessed over food. Anyway guys, I really hope this video helped, and please like and subscribe. I would really appreciate it, and I'll see you guys soon.